Part 5. At dawn on February 14, 1918, in a distant small town, I read these notes by Sergei Polyakov. And here they are completely, without any changes whatsoever. I'm not a psychiatrist, I can't say for sure whether they are instructive or necessary. In my opinion, we need them. Now that 10 years have passed, the pity and fear caused by the recordings are certainly gone. This is natural, but after rereading these notes, now that Polyakov's body has long decayed, and the memory of him has completely disappeared, I have retained interest in them. Maybe they are needed? I take the liberty to decide this in the affirmative. Anna K. died in 1922 from typhus and at the same site where she worked. Amneris, Polyakov's first wife, is abroad. And he won't come back. Can I print notes given to me? I can. I'm typing. Dr. Bomgard. 1927 autumn. I moved it from a remote area to a county town. Bulgakov's delight in connection with moving to Vyazma, September 20, 1917, was not shared by T.N. Lapa, because all her thoughts were directed to one thing, her husband's illness. Here are the later memoirs recorded by L. Parshin shortly before her death. Vyazma is such a backwater city. They gave us a room there. As soon as they woke up, go look for a pharmacy. I went, found a pharmacy, brought it to him. It's over, it's necessary again. He used it very quickly. Well, he has a seal, go to another pharmacy, look for it. And so I was looking for it in Vyazma, somewhere on the edge of the city there is still some kind of pharmacy. I walked for almost 3 hours. And he's standing right on the street, waiting for me. He was so scary back then. Do you remember his picture before he died? That's the kind of face he had. He was so pathetic, so miserable. And he asked me one thing, just don't send me to the hospital. Lord, how much I persuaded him, admonished him, entertained him. I wanted to give up everything and leave. But when I look at him, what is he like? How am I going to leave him? Who needs him? Yes, it was a terrible streak. Parshin L. Decree. Op. Bulgakov, showing the keenest interest in political events in Russia, collected various newspapers telling about the upheavals of that time, starting with the February Revolution and the abdication of Nicholas II from the throne. Cherishing the idea of writing a grandiose historical novel about the amazing events in Russia, Bulgakov for a number of years attached the most interesting information to his collection. Unfortunately, he did not write this novel. Bomgard. So far no one has explained the origin of this mysterious name, although there have been attempts. See Galinskaya I.L. Riddles of Famous Books. M. 1986. p. 101. A notebook of the type of general notebooks in black oilcloth. It should be noted that Bulgakov wrote the vast majority of his works in such general oilcloth notebooks, however, of different colors. Dozens of notebooks have absorbed the novels The Master and Margarita, The Life of Mr. de Molière, Notes of the Deceased, the plays Adam and Eve, The Cabal of the Saints, The Half-Witted Jourdain, Bliss, Ivan Vasilyevich, Alexander Pushkin, Batum, Libretto, Minin and Pozharsky, Peter the Great, Rachel, etc. Several notebooks of the same work have, as a rule, a single author's numbering. Most often, notebooks contain not only the text of the work, but also materials for it, extracts, sketches, bibliography, drawings, diagrams, tables, etc. In general, Bulgakov's manuscripts are inferior in their external beauty only to the autographs of the great Dostoevsky. Undoubtedly, 1917. Dr. Bomgard. And she had to inject me with morphine. There are several versions of T.N. Lap's memoirs, which were recorded in different years. There are also several records about Bulgakov's morphinism disease. Here is one of them. They brought a child with diphtheria, and Mikhail began to do a tracheotomy. And then Mikhail began to suck the films out of his throat and said, "You know, it seems to me that the film got into his mouth. We need to get vaccinated." I warned him, "Look, your lips will swell, your face will swell, it will be terrible in your hands and feet." But he doesn't care to me, I'll do it. And after a while it started, the face swells, the body becomes covered with a rash, the itching is insane. And then terrible pains in the legs. I've experienced this twice. And he certainly couldn't stand it. "Now, call Stepanida. She's coming." Please bring me a syringe and morphine right now." She brought morphine, injected him. He immediately calmed down and fell asleep. And he really liked it. After a while, as he had an unimportant condition, he called the paramedic again. That's how it started. Parshin L. Decree. Op. After escaping from Moscow from the hospital, this is one of the mysterious records of Dr. Polyakov. No information about Bulgakov's stay in the Moscow hospital was found. It is only known that Bulgakov traveled to Moscow several times to get rid of military service. In February 1918, he succeeded. "I survived the shooting and the coup in the hospital." This record is not confirmed by facts, but letters from Vyazma have been preserved, in which the Bulgakovs clearly expressed their attitude to the events taking place. On October 30, 1917, T.N. Lapa wrote to N. Zemskaya, "Dear Nadyusha, please write immediately what is being done in Moscow. We live in complete obscurity. For 4 days, we have not received any news from anywhere. We are very worried, and the condition is terrible." On December 31st of the same year, Bulgakov wrote a detailed letter to N. Zemskaya, in which he very clearly states his impressions of the two revolutions that took place in Russia. Here are these lines. "Recently, on a trip to Moscow and Saratov, I had to see everything with my own eyes, and I would not like to see more. I have seen how grey crowds with whooping and vile swearing break windows on trains. I have seen how people are beaten. I saw destroyed and burnt houses in Moscow, stupid and brutal faces. I saw the crowds that besieged the entrances of captured and locked banks, hungry tales at the shops, hunted and pitiful officers. I saw newspaper leaflets where they write about essentially one thing, about the blood that flows in the south, in the west, and in the east, and about prisons. I saw everything with my own eyes and finally understood what happened." Many of Bulgakov's troubles stemmed from an extremely simple thing. He always correctly assessed what was happening. And such people in Russia are doomed to inevitable suffering. Loneliness is important, significant thoughts, calmness, wisdom. As we have already noted, Bulgakov told his friend A.P. Dushinsky about this in Kiev. And here's what Bulgakov wrote to N. Zemskaya in the already mentioned New Year's Eve letter on December 31, 1917. "I live all alone. But I have a wide field for reflection. And I'm thinking. And for 10 miles around, no one. Fogs, swamps, forests." All this came to the writer's mind when completing work on the novel, The Master and Margarita, Gods, My Gods. How sad is the evening earth! How mysterious are the mists over the marshes! Anyone who wandered in these mists, who suffered a lot before death, who flew over this earth, carrying an unbearable load, knows this. A tired person knows this. And he leaves the mists of the earth, its swamps and rivers without regret. He gives himself with a light heart into the hands of death. It flies without touching the ground. Cf. with the story of a Chekhov, the Black Monk, references to which Bulgakov will make more than once in his writings. "If you don't leave here for the city, I'll strangle myself." Of course, you can't completely rely on memories, which are also recorded after 56 years, but the coincidences are still amazing. This is how T.N. Lapa remembered these tragic days. I didn't know what to do. I felt that it wouldn't end well. But he regularly demanded morphine. I cried, I asked him to stop, but he didn't pay attention to it. At the cost of incredible efforts, I forced him to leave for Kiev, otherwise, I said, would have to commit suicide. It affected him, and we went to Kiev. P.S. Entry Konchakovsky. I swore to her that I was leaving in mid-February. At the end of February, the Bulgakovs returned to Kiev. It was impossible to hide a serious illness from his mother and other close relatives. A real struggle with a deadly enemy, an incurable disease, has begun. Unfortunately, T.N. Lapa described this most important period in Bulgakov's life both vaguely and even ambiguously. The influence of interviewers is also possible. Here is her first memory in the recording of A.P. Konchakovsky, and then I turned to Ivan Pavlovich Voskresenskiy, the second husband of Varvara Mikhailovna, Bulgakov's mother, a doctor. V.L. For help. He advised Mikhail to inject distilled water. So, I did. I'm sure Mikhail understood what was going on, but he didn't show it and accepted the game. Gradually, he moved away from this terrible habit. And since then, not only have I never taken morphine again, but I have never talked about it. Her memoirs, later, recorded by L.K. Parshin, turned out to be more extensive. Varvara Mikhailovna immediately noticed, "What is some kind of Mikhail?" I told her he was sick and that's why we came. Ivan Pavlovich noticed it himself and asked somehow, "What is it?" Yes, I say, it happened that way. It is necessary, of course, to act. At first, I also went to pharmacies, to one, to another, tried to bring distilled water instead of morphine, so he threw this syringe at me. I stole the Browning from him when he was sleeping, gave it to Koka and Vanka. And then I said, "You know what, I'm going to the pharmacy more, I won't walk." They wrote down your address. I lied to him, of course. And he was terribly afraid that they would come and take away his seal. I was terribly afraid of it. He wouldn't be able to practice then. He says, "Then bring me opium." It was then sold at the pharmacy without a prescription. He's the whole bubble at once. And then I suffered a lot with my stomach. And that's how he gradually realized that he could not use any more drugs. He knew it was incurable. That's how it gradually passed.